In a world of spreadsheets, Silas lived a silent life, hiding a secret melody within. But when a beloved music cafe faces closure, will he risk everything to let his hidden song be heard? Discover how one man's courage to embrace his passion can save not only a place, but himself. Get ready to be inspired to unleash your own voice. In a quiet corner of the city, where the rhythm of life ticked away in predictable patterns, lived Silas, a man of numbers. His days were spent in the hushed halls of a government office, where spreadsheets and balance sheets defined his world. For years, Silas lived a life devoid of expression, a fortress of calm built around the quiet hum of his office. His cubicle, neat and orderly, was a reflection of his life, everything in its place, nothing out of line. But hidden beneath his desk lay a secret, a worn wooden guitar case, the keeper of his hidden self. It was a stark contrast to the gray around it. Each evening, Silas would retreat to his small apartment, where he would open the case and unleash a flood of melodies. The guitar was not just an instrument, but a vessel of untold stories. His music was the voice he'd kept hidden for so long. He called it his foolish secret, believing the emotions in his music were too unsafe to reveal. Silas continued to keep his love for music separate from the world of numbers, keeping the two worlds far apart. He thought his music was only meant to be heard by him. One ordinary day, a folder landed on Silas's desk, stamped with the words, "Noise Complaint and Zoning Violation." The words were bold, and they seemed to weigh heavy on the man's desk. It concerned a small live music cafe called the Rusty String. The Rusty String was on the brink of collapse, struggling to survive, noticed only for its noise. The cafe was about to be shut down, and Silas held its future in his hands. The cafe's time was running out. The numbers were clear. The cafe was unprofitable, a nuisance, and in violation of zoning laws. The decision was easy: sign the closure order and be done with it. But something was stopping Silas from signing. That afternoon, Silas found himself lingering on the papers. A strange weight pressed on his chest, a pull he hadn't felt in decades. He knew this decision would change everything, one way or another. Driven by an unfamiliar curiosity, Silas decided to visit the Rusty String. He was going to see this place for himself, and hopefully finally have an answer. Would the cafe stay open, or would it close? He donned a hat and glasses, a meager disguise to shield himself from judgment. He didn't want people to know that a man like him would visit a place like that. The place was far different than the world he knew. The Rusty String buzzed with life, a refuge where strangers laughed, shared stories, and made music. It was a world far removed from his quiet office. He could not believe his eyes. A young poet, trembling, read verses that flickered like candlelight. Her words danced in the air, casting light onto the darkness. He listened as a tear went down his cheek. A rock band unleashed. Waves of raw energy, their drums beating and guitars strumming with abandon. He was surprised by the intensity of the music. It had him jumping in his seat. An old man with a simple folk song stepped forward, a melody so pure it silenced the room. The man's song was about the love of his family, and it touched Silas's heart. Silas knew what it was like to love something. For the first time in years, Silas felt a sense of belonging. He was finally a part of a community. He had always been alone, and now he was with people who loved the same things he did. The walls of his life began to crack, letting warmth seep through. His heart, silent for so long, was screaming that this place mattered. He was finally starting to feel alive. The next morning, Silas did the unthinkable. He refused to sign the closure order. The cafe meant something to him, and it was worth saving. He refused to be the cause of its end. He spent hours scouring municipal codes, desperately searching for a loophole. He knew there had to be some way he could save the cafe. He knew he was not going to give up without a fight. Finally, he found a cultural preservation grant, designed for places like the Rusty String. He knew he was on the right track. Now he just needed to apply for the grant. With renewed purpose, Silas submitted the necessary documents, securing the cafe's future. He had saved the Rusty String. It was his greatest victory yet. But this victory was not just about the building, but about reclaiming the lost part of himself. It was a victory for both the cafe and Silas. It was a win-win situation. That evening, Silas walked into the Rusty String with his guitar. He was ready to perform for the first time in years. His emotions were all over the place. His hands trembled, his heart pounded, but he took a deep breath and stepped on stage. He knew this would change his life forever. He knew this was the right thing to do. He played a melody that was all his own, the song of a man who had been silent for years. He was finally ready to let his emotions out. He was ready to let his music be heard. The final note lingered, and the crowd erupted in applause. He was amazed by the crowd's reaction. He could not believe that they liked his music. In letting his heart be heard, Silas had not only saved a cafe, he had saved himself. He discovered a new sense of self-worth and a new chapter in life. He was now at peace. He learned that life as value can't always be measured by numbers alone. He had been focused on numbers for so long, he forgot there were other ways to measure life. Sometimes, the bravest risk is to follow your passion. He had been afraid to follow his passion for so long, he was finally able to let himself be free. From that day forward, his music was no longer a secret, but his voice, and it was beautiful. Silas was finally free from the shackles of routine and restraint. He was able to live his life to the fullest. And so Silas's song goes on. Will it be his last? No one knows. But will the world always be there to hear it? Hopefully.